In this video, we're going to talk about a mechanic's lien on a vehicle to get a title. If you have a vehicle that has been left for repairs, storage, towing, and somebody didn't pay the bill, you might be able to use a mechanic's lien to get you a title to own the vehicle or to sell it to get your money. We're going to use an example from the state of Illinois. However, the basics of this are the same in almost every state. Right? So even though we're going to use this example for the state of Illinois, you'll see it on the screen, you will find that most states are almost exactly the same in terms of the requirements, in terms of the process, so you can use this as a guide. In addition, we're also going to talk about how we can help you with this. You could do this all yourself for free. You don't have to pay anybody to do a mechanic's lien. You can do your own mechanic's lien. We will also, though, give you information on what we can do to assist you with this if you choose, and give you that option as well. So that's what will be in this video. So let's dive right in. First of all, what is a mechanic's lien? Well, it's a process where a vehicle repairer, towing company, storage company can use a legal process through the DMV or the licensing division to get a title or ownership for a vehicle to help offset costs or expenses for repairing or storing a vehicle. Now you'll see in this example, it says Secretary of State. Well, in the state of Illinois, if you're not from Illinois, that's what they call their DMV. Their Department of Motor Vehicles or licensing division is called Secretary of State Vehicle Services Department. So if you see that mentioned, that's what it means. It's their version of DMV. And this is the form that you use. And we'll talk about the form. We'll also talk about the checklist. What are the instructions? Right? We'll get into that and how you can do it, or also how we can do it. So first, you have to do a recital of the vehicle. General vehicle information: year, make, body style, model, VIN number. Make sure you type that correctly. One of the most common errors is having one digit off or typo on the VIN number. If there's a license plate you're aware of, put that here and what state it's from. Print the name and address of the person who left the vehicle for repair or storage or towing. You have to put that here. The mechanic's lien information, that's you, the mechanic. Date of the first notice, and you'll see instructions and we'll talk about that. Date storage fees begin, and you have to make sure you use the correct date to start the storage. If you start it too early, it's void. You can't start it before a certain time. If you start it too late, you're going to reduce the amount that you're able to charge for storage. So make sure you use the correct date, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. The date vehicle was towed or left for repair. What date was it dropped off at your shop or brought in for service? And the date they were completed. So if it was brought in on January 10th and completed on January 20th, that's what you put in those boxes. Total amount due for services. This is very important. You want to put the total of your repair services, your parts, labor, and it says attach a copy of the invoice and work order, and that's in the instructions as well. We'll talk about that. Here's an important section: details of the acquisition of vehicle. Attach a separate sheet if needed. This is simply a recital of your story. Customer brought in the car on this date, wanted the new transmission. We told them it cost $1,000. They said go ahead. Just a little kind of story time, show and tell about how you got the vehicle, right? And then there's a section for the notice and public sale, and you check one of these. If the lien is $2,000 or less, if it's $2,000 or more, you'll need to put the dates of where a notice was published in a newspaper, and we'll talk about that momentarily. If it's a self-storage facility, it's a little bit different. You have to send notice by certified mail. You have to do that as well up here, but we'll talk about what the requirements are. Once all the process is done, you're going to put down the name of the purchaser. Now, the purchaser can be you. You can purchase your own vehicle as a repair shop. Purchaser's name and address. You have to put down what the odometer is on the vehicle, what the mileage is showing. The signature of the seller is the mechanic. The signature of the purchaser is the person who's going to be the new owner. That could be you, or it could be somebody you sell it to. And then printed name of parties, address, and date. So that's the form. What are the instructions? Let's take a look at those. It has two sets of instructions: mechanic's lien $2,000 or less, mechanic's lien $2,000 and more. So let's take a look at 2000 and more, because that'll be a little bit more stringent requirements. So it'll give you the worst case scenario. So step one, and again, this is Illinois, but it's almost exactly the same as most states, right? I mean, it's knowing this and being aware of this will give you the idea in most states. And again, if you want the details on your state, you can see those on our website. You can contact us for more information, but this will give you a good overview to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into in doing a mechanics lien. Step one is conduct a record search to determine vehicle owners and lien holders. This is crucially important. You want to look up the name of the lien holder, the name of the owner in the motor vehicle records division. You don't want to use what's in your glove compartment, what's on your repair order of the vehicle, what the customer told you, because if you use information that's not the official name and address of the owner to send out notifications, the whole thing is void and your whole thing will get rejected. So you want to send that out in writing to the DMV or the Motor Vehicle Services Division in your state, requesting a title search to determine owners and lien holders. Some states charge a fee. In Illinois, it's $5, no big deal. And they'll give you back a printout of the name and address that they have in their system. Who is the owner? It'll say Joe Schmo, owner, 12 Main Street. XYZ Bank is the lien holder, 21 State Street, whatever it is. You'll get that. In addition, most states, when they get this title search, will also put a freeze on the title, so the owner or lien holder won't do any funny business of trying to switch the title out to try to give you a problem with your mechanics lien, right? If the state that you're in, if the Secretary of State did not find information, it might be because it's in another state, and then you have to do a nationwide title search, and there's ways to do that too. Once you have identified the name of the owner and the lien holder, step two is you have to send out a notification. You must send a certified letter to the owner and lien holder. The letter has to be very specific in what's in it. You can't just say, hey, pay me my bill, right? You have to be very specific. The notice shall indicate, it'll tell you what you have to do. Normally, the letter will have to say the vehicle information, VIN number, year, make, model, the amount that's due, the amount that's owing, who else has been notified. If you send it to the lien holder, you have to show that it's to the owner and vice versa. You have to put your name and address as the mechanic. You have to put the date that it's going to be sold. And it will also have a statement saying that unless payments received, in this case within 30 days, that the car's going away. You're losing it. It's going to be sold, right? You have to let them know that. Notice here it says only storage charges that are incurred after the date the first notice is sent will be calculated, meaning that you can't backdate storage from the first day they brought it there. You can only charge storage from a certain time. In Illinois, it's after the date the notice is sent to the lien holder, right? You can't charge more than that. Storage charges may not be included prior to any written notice mailed by certified mail. So you can't tack on storage fees from before you start sending out notices. Be aware of that, because if you add on too much, they'll reject it. Okay? That's the first notice. The other notice is the mechanic must also place an ad in the newspaper once a week for 3 weeks, listing all the same information: the owner, the lien holder, year, make, and model, the amount due, and indicate the intent to enforce a sale. You must also provide the date and location of that sale at least 30 days in advance. So basically you have to put the car up for a bid. Now, you can buy it yourself, like we said. If somebody comes and says, hey, I'll bid $500 for that car, you can bid $501. Remember, you don't have to send this money to anybody. You're paying it to yourself. So as long as it's worth it for you not to accept the money from the buyer, you can keep it yourself, right? You must also file an affidavit with the court in that county. Basically, you can do that by mail. The affidavit shall indicate the facts of the transaction, and then have that sale. Step 4 is you have the sale. If the charges are not paid by the lien holder or owner, you may dispose of the vehicle at public sale in accordance with the chapter. right? So that's the basics of the mechanics lien. There's also some differences if you're a self-storage facility. It's very similar, but you have 15 days after the newspaper instead of 30. There may be some other differences in the requirement. So what are some other facts to remember? Well, it'll tell you right here. If the mechanic's lien holder, meaning the mechanic itself, asserts a fee that is not reasonably related, it won't be honored, meaning that you can't just tack on random fees to jack up the bill, right? Example, administrative costs, title searches, that kind of thing. You can't jack up the bill. It can only be a legitimate bill, right? The mechanic must also set forth specifically the items and labor of material and their corresponding values that comprise the lien. You can't just make up a number out of thin air. You have to say this much for this part, this much for the other part, 10 hours of labor, and itemize it. Inflated costs or inappropriate fees may be subject to further investigation. Remember that word investigation. We're going to talk about that a little more, investigation, because this mechanics lien process is more than just what meets the eye. There's stuff going on behind the scenes you need to know about, right? So make sure that when you're adding up your costs, you don't just make up some pie in the sky number that is not reasonable, because it's going to, at the least, get this rejected. At the most, it could get you into trouble. We'll talk about that. To enforce a mechanics lien, the vehicle owner's consent is required. This is important. Most states require that you have a valid authorization to work on the vehicle. You have some documentation indicating consent, whether express or implied, and this is kind of vague. If a person signs a document stating he or she agrees to the charges for the work, you're good to go. Without this signature, consent is difficult to prove. So the DMV is telling you right here, look, technically you don't have to have a signed repair order, but if you don't, you might be spinning your wheels. You might not go anywhere. Right? So make sure you have repair orders on these. Don't just make up stuff out of thin air. Right? Towing companies may enforce a mechanics lien for towing, but it has to be pursuant to a valid tow. In this case, it talks about order of law enforcement. Proof of tow authorization is required. In this case, law enforcement. If it's towed from a private property, you may have other means of providing proof, but you can't just make up, hey, I towed this vehicle, give me a title. It has to be legitimate. What about civilians? A property owner may not use mechanics lien process, period, right? So if you're a private party that just has a car in your lot that you want to just make up some storage bill or some, claim that the person told you to fix their car, if you're not a licensed automotive facility, you're probably going to be out of luck. Now, there may be other ways to get a title, but mechanics lien is probably not it. Mechanics lien is designed for a legitimate, authorized automotive company to get a title, not just some random person that either fixes cars in their backyard or somebody left their car in your driveway. Okay? Without providing consent, then you're out of luck. Does not apply. Does not apply without providing consent. Illinois law provides for the disposal of abandoned vehicles by law enforcement. So if you're saying the vehicle's abandoned, that's a different story. You have to have a towing company remove the vehicle, and they do a mechanics lien. So don't start throwing around words like abandoned or unclaimed, because as soon as you start doing that, it's not your car anymore. It's not finders keepers. Also, mechanics lien is for intact vehicles. No significant damage. This is not for parts or disassembled vehicles. Right? You have to have a legitimate vehicle. Mechanics lien may not begin until at least 60 days if the lien is less than $2,000, or 30 days if it's more than $2,000. So you have to wait after the last bill is due to start the process. Right? So, what do you need to put together? Well, you need that mechanics lien document, which we saw up above, completed in full. You need an application for title, completed in full. That's another form. You need that title search printout from either your state or from the other state. You also need the proof of the notices, the proof of the certified mail that you sent, proof of the notification to the service, to the court. You need the copies of the newspaper ads that you placed. So it shows that you did all those things that we talked about above. You have to have proof you did those. They will not take your word for it. Look at number 5. Number 5 says you need a copy of the work order with the vehicle itemized, services rendered, the date was brought in for service, and signature of the owner, authorized agent, or lawful possessor. Right? So you have to have a signature consenting to service. Technically, there's ways around that. If you don't have the signature, you can try. May not work. If you have the signature, you're better off. But if you don't have a signature, it says right here you're supposed to have it. Again, this is Illinois. Most states is the same thing. They're not going to just let you randomly get a title for a vehicle without somebody's authorizing you to do the work. Because otherwise, everybody could just grab a car and say, hey, I did a transmission on this car. Give me the car for free. So this is designed to protect people's rights. What else you have to include? You have to pay the fees, whatever the fees are in your state, and sales tax if it's due. What else should you know? Well, remember we talked about this word investigation? Well, it says if inflated costs or inappropriate calculations, it'll do a further investigation. You may get a further investigation anyways. The reason why is because the DMV or titling division or Secretary of State, depending on what state you're in, they know for sure that some of these applications are pure fraud. They're people that are licensed automotive facilities that are using this to get titles for cars that their buddy bought it on Craigslist, they didn't get a title, or they towed it in under some, kind of murky circumstances. They know that this process is a privilege given to automotive companies. Civilians can't do this. We saw that up here. It says property owner may not use this, so civilians can't do it. You as a authorized repair facility have some privileges. That privilege is very frequently abused by companies that are using this to get titles for cars really that didn't go through this whole thing. So they're going to audit this. They're going to look at things like red flags. Is this one company sending in a bunch of them, and it doesn't seem like they would have that many based on how often, what their taxes are, their tax returns are, how big their operation is. If they send in 20 a month and they have a little rinky-dink shop, it might be a red flag. These are always subject to investigation and audit, so make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Make sure all your documents required are done properly. We recommend typing them, not handwriting them. Put a copy of your license, because be prepared that it will be scrutinized, right? So how can we help? Well, first thing is you can get all these forms blank from our website for free. We also have videos like this one that give you instructions how to do it for free. If you want us to help, there's a couple ways we can do it. One thing we can do is we can prepare all these forms for you. We can get the forms, fill them in, get everything ready, and then you use them as you need them. Remember, there's a lot of different steps. There's 30 days for this step, 60 days for that step. You have to wait another 30 days for the certified mail, right? You have to do all these steps. We can give you all the forms you'll need over that course of time. In most cases, this will take 3 or 4 months. Some states it takes 6 or 7 months. We'll give you all the forms you'll need during that time. That's pretty cheap. It costs about $150 right now. It may go up a little bit in the future, but right now it's about $150. So we can do that. That's the easy way out, the cheap way out. If you want us to do everything, all these steps, all the checklist, all the forms, everything, we can do that too. But it's a lot more money because all the work involved for not only filling out the forms, but for sending the notices, putting the notices in the newspaper, holding the sale, all these things, that can take 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours of labor to do all that. We can do it for you, but it's going to be $80, $90 an hour, sometimes $110 in some states. It can add up quick and it can be hundreds or thousands of dollars. If you're interested in having us do everything, you can call us up and we can figure an exact quote for your situation. But if you want us just to prepare the forms for you that you can use yourself, you can go on our website and order that right online. Look under Mechanics Lien at cartitles.com and click the red button that says order title. We'll fill out the forms for you. If you have other questions, you can reach us at our website, cartitles.com. You can call us up. You can also email our help desk. help@cartitles.com is the email, and we can give you more information, or you can reach our help desk by calling up the number on the website, and we can provide more assistance. But that's a mechanics lien in a nutshell. It's a valid process for a licensed automotive facility. It gives you privileges that most civilians don't have. So use them. Use your license to your advantage, and make sure that you get paid for vehicles that you're entitled for compensation because you did valid work and valid service for the owner of the vehicle.